Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to introduce a brand new game to you guys that I just started playing. It's called ChronoBlade. You may have heard of it before. It was actually a Facebook game a few years back, and then it got taken down from Facebook, and the developers decided to remake the game, or kind of port the game to the iOS and Android. And I'm making this video for you guys now earlier than I usually make videos on new games, because I like to take usually about 5 days to a week playing a game, getting the ins and outs of it, learning pretty much as I can before I bring new content to you guys. But I thought I would make an exception on this game simply because it is brand new. It just came out for the App Store and I guess the Play Store as well, maybe a day ago or 2 days ago, so I haven't had a lot of time to play it, but it's brand new. And because of that, everyone playing it is relatively at the same starting point. In addition, it appears to be a pretty free-to-play friendly game, so you can kind of keep up with the spending players, or at least keep a small margin between you and them by just playing every day, and that's something that will increase as the game gets older if you don't pick it up now and you decide to pick it up later. So I wanted to introduce it to you guys. I wanted to give you guys something else to maybe fill your time if you don't find Marvel Future Fight is satisfying you anymore. In some ways it does remind me of that kind of game as kind of an ARPG with active skills and enemies and building characters, and then in a couple of other ways it doesn't remind me of Marvel Future Fight, and it has some other aspects that I really enjoy. So I'll start by explaining what you're essentially doing in the game. I'll take you through some content, and then I'll discuss some other game modes. But keep in mind that because it just came out, there's very few available tracks that you can go down right now. There's still no guild option yet, for example, guilds being like alliances. It's obviously coming soon, and hopefully this means that the developers are intending to make a lot more content for this game in the future. So basically what you have are 4 main characters, and in a lot of typical ARPGs you have different classes. They've kind of split this up, but they give you all of the characters at the beginning that you just need to unlock by playing through some tutorials. So you have your kind of general brawler guy, you have your melee female character who's empowered and independent and sassy. You have your other kind of more thievy looking guy with a big sword instead of the brawly type action, and he's got a metal arm. And then you have the tiny, quirky mage, who apparently everyone appears to like, and pro tip, is probably the strongest character right now because it is the character that's dominating the leaderboards for this game. An interesting thing is that they've divided the game's different types, fire, lightning, water, and earth, between the different characters. And so as you can see here, for this brawler he is water and earth, but then for the magician she is, or I don't know what her name is, she does have a name though, it's fire and earth. And then for this guy it's fire and lightning, and for this one it's water and lightning. So that would take the role of typical types in games, whether it's like fire, water, combat speed, stuff like that. And from what I've seen, there are definitely missions, and specifically story missions as well as other missions, where you cannot use certain types because the enemy will have complete resistance to it, which nullifies that entirely. And that basically forces you to build up all of these characters, or at least a few of them, to cover your bases, so that you don't get locked out of content or you don't hit like a hard wall. The other thing that I think is really interesting about this game that's totally different from Marvel Future Fight is that the hero themselves don't actually have a level. The heroes level follow your account level, so at the top there you can see my account level is 10 and I'm about halfway to level 11. That is the maximum level that all of my characters can attain. When I actually take my characters on missions, as you'll see, they don't gain levels. The items or the equipment gains levels, and by gaining levels in your equipment they improve their stats. You can see the stats there, max HP, etc. And then you can do other things to improve the equipment altogether, in addition to promoting it and kind of ranking it up, as we're familiar with other games where you collect enough shards of it and then you allow it to get to the next level. So for example, I've collected enough shards for the staff lady's belt from the Valkyrie set. Now there's multiple sets for each character. Presumably they all have different kind of set bonuses. Obviously I haven't explored that yet because a lot of this stuff is available much later in the game. These are heroic missions, zone 27 and 9-1. But you ideally want to combine a full set to take advantage of those, but you're always given one set at the beginning to start. So I think that's a pretty interesting mechanic, and if you autoplay and you gain XP that way, you can then use it towards leveling up these items separately. In addition, the skills kind of operate under the same parameters. They don't actually level up when you use them or when your account levels up. You have to level them up, and you're given skill points that regenerate. So rather than spending gold or any other resource on skill points, you actually just get them for free. And so if I want to upgrade Consecrating Pool so that it does more damage, keep in mind the damage over here next to her health, 165, that's going to go up when I improve Consecrating Pool. It's kind of a way of inflating the damage that a character does, so it can be misleading. Wow, she has 212 offense on lightning. That's because I've leveled up her lightning skill, Squall Burst, in addition to her lightning skill, Charged Spear. That doesn't mean she's going to do a ton more damage on her auto attack, but we'll see how the actual gameplay goes in a little bit. But if I upgrade Consecrating Pool, it's going to tell me what happens. Level goes up, excuse me, the damage goes up, and then you can see that her offense has gone up to 181, and I'm down to 8 skill points, and they're recharging, it looks to be about 10 minutes per skill point. And you can also speed that up by paying some crystals, but we'll get into the kind of paid aspect of the game later. But I thought that was another interesting little bit, and it basically just forces you to wait a little bit of time to upgrade skill points. And this is kind of something you can do in the background, is you can upgrade the important skills for the characters that you use frequently, and then when you have an excess of skill points, when you hit the cap, you can go to other characters that you don't necessarily use, and you can level up their skills and kind of slowly work your way up. It appears that characters get up to at least level 42 as far as I've understood things from the account level, so I'm assuming that the skills will also get to that level, but I might be wrong about that. And then on top of that, you can choose which skills to apply. So that's something that I like. Multiple skills for each character, but you only are allowed 3 active skills, so you can kind of change your loadout and manipulate how the character is going to play, whether they're going to be ranged, close range, like melee, if they're going to have lots of AoE or lots of single target, status effects, stuns, ailments, stuff like that, or straight damage. And then you have a glut of materials that you use for different things, leveling up skills, leveling up your equipment, and so on and so forth. And so you take these characters that you've leveled up and you basically play them in primarily the adventure mode, which right now consists of normal and heroic. In normal, you're basically grinding for materials that you use to upgrade equipment and skills. And then in the heroic mode, you can do the same thing, but you can also get additional equipment shards. And the equipment shards you'll use both to unlock equipment and rank it up to a total of 6 stars, which is pretty brutal. So I want to take you through, let's just go with 3-1. It's pretty difficult for me, but I can still do it relatively safely. You can see here it tells you what the enemy is coming with, so they're only coming with fire damage. I haven't noticed a lot of resistances yet on the defensive end of items, so it seems to be mostly offensively geared. Whether that's going to impact late game or future content, I'm not sure, but it does give you an idea of what to expect from the mission, and it gives you some clear conditions, and it tells you what kind of loot you're going to get, mostly just materials for building up things. But the combat is another part of the game that I think is pretty interesting, and just as a beware, as a warning, I don't think this game is very emulator friendly. As you can see, there's a lot of buttons on the screen. You have your auto attack, but they've divided it into 2 kinds of auto attack. There's the light auto attack, which are kind of faster, and then you have the heavy auto attack, which deals more damage, but of course is slower. Then you also have a dodge mechanic where your character can dodge around, and because this is kind of a side-scroller game, they've allowed you an additional plane of access to move back and forth in addition to the regular, you know, left and right, to increase the amount of lanes that a character can be in. So it makes the combat a little bit tricky to get used to at first, because you're not actually you're not facing your enemies. I mean, your character is, but the camera isn't, so it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it does create some additional interesting scenarios for dodging and setting up enemies in certain positions so you can take advantage of your positioning and your advantageous there to do more damage and to combo them. In addition, there's a block mechanic, so that's all well and good. On top of that, you have your skills, which you can see there. I have my 3 skills down there. And then on top of that, you have your joystick, but you also have auto dash skills for left, right, front, and back. So there's actually a lot of different buttons Definitely not enough that you can map onto a controller, so I'm gonna have to go without using the dash mechanic right now. But this is the basis of the combat, and so you can see here, use light and heavy attacks to just kill these regular monsters, and then as you clear this wave, you will either get another wave, darn it, you'll get another wave depending on how difficult the stage is and how many monsters there are, or it'll unlock and you'll be able to go to the next one. In addition, you have, of course, mana along with your HP. Mana is used to cast skills. From what I've seen, at least in the early game, skills are very expensive, costing, you know, sometimes half of your mana pool, 500-600 cost. And so you only get a couple of casts per mission if you choose to spend them on the boss. If you choose to spend them on the mobs, you can regenerate regenerate mana by hitting enemies. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to cast one of my skills there. It's a punch that knocks the character up. In addition to regular combat, you also have aerial combat. So you can actually knock enemies up into the air. I'll try to show you a little bit later. And you can combo them further in the air. But as you hit enemies, you'll see that it regenerates my mana back there. So I'm up to 1077 right now, which does place an emphasis on light attacks. So I think a tip that I have for you is, while you definitely want to vary your attacks, and there are definitely combos that you can pull off. I think if I pause it, I can show you there's quite a robust combo list for different attacks, which I really like. It kind of melds the ARPG genre and a kind of a fighting game genre. You definitely want to use those to your advantage, but you also want to mix in, especially if you're using mana skills frequently, enough light attacks, because you'll be able to regenerate more mana. Oh, I lost. What? Oh, I failed. Okay, so there's a hard... I had no idea this was possible. There's a hard limit on the amount of time it takes you to finish the level. Wow. So you can see there that I would have gotten XP for my equipment if I had completed the level. Whoa, that's sad. But yeah, there's an additional level of difficulty in this game, because if you talk too much and you don't actually play, you're going to lose automatically. So you can't kind of cheese bosses by kiting them for too long. You have to engage the enemy. So as I was saying, if you like to spam your skills and not just use your auto attack, and you want to waste or use up your mana, it does put an emphasis on light attacks, because they allow you to regenerate mana a little bit faster, because you're getting more hits in per enemy, which means on average more mana regenerated. But there is definitely something to say about the benefit of using heavy attacks. Obviously, you have to use fewer attacks to get through your enemies and kill them, and you have some pretty nice ones like the charge up heavy attack, which is one of my favorites to start off a combo that just pushes the enemy back, and it's nice for surrounding enemies in the corner and kind of allowing yourself to, oh wow, combo them successfully from that. But I do need to focus a little bit here. I had no idea there was a hard limit. Wow. In addition to the regular attacks and all of the skills that I've talked about, you also have this charge up meter. I'm not sure how to explain what it does, but basically as you get consecutive hits in, that H will charge up, and then the more hits you get without being hit, the more you can release it for kind of a bonus attack. And I'll show you what the bonus attack looks like here in a second when these enemies come close. I just need to find my mouse and I need to click it because I don't have it bound. It basically just does a punch down and does AoE damage. So it's a pretty nice additional skill to have. There's just a bit of risk reward associated with it, because you want to use that skill to deal damage, and you want to build up a lot of hits so that you can do more damage. But if you get hit, it resets the counter back to 0 and you get nothing out of it. So there's definitely an interesting mechanic there to kind of encourage the player to get a lot of combos, but then also the risk of losing your combo if you're too aggressive. We get to the boss here, Grevling Rat King. Okay, let's see what we can do. I'm going to open with a heavy attack, and I'm going to use my skills here. Knock him up, hit him in the air. Nicely done. Use my other skill. That's a bind. That's pretty nice. If I was playing on my phone right now, I would just tap that H button, but I can't because the fact that it's on a mouse, so I'm going to have to go and click it. Okay, he's stunned a little bit more. Nice. And you can do some really nice combos in the air. It's really fun. And especially when you get some of the combos down, especially at least with this character, it looks really cool. So that is the kind of core mechanic of the game, where you're playing, it's kind of a 2.5 dimensional playing field. Although your character is three-dimensional and everything else is three-dimensional, you kind of have that axis where you can't actually run. You're tied to these tracks and you're just running back and forth or up and down, but it does create some additional flavor for the PvE experience. In addition to the regular adventure mode and the heroic adventure mode, they also currently have limited dungeons which give you specific drops, and you can see here it features specific loot, but it also features very specific offense and defense. So as you can see here, the vulnerability is only earth, so if I try to play it, it's going to warn me and say that I don't have a character who primarily uses that vulnerability, so I'm going to have a hard time and I'm not going to be able to kill some of the enemies, so I should either switch my equipment or change characters altogether. And so that's another way that they're kind of hard enforcing the different elements or the different types to force you to develop all of your characters simultaneously. Last but not least, they do have live PvP. And right now I'm 1-5, which means I'm completely trash at PvP, but that's okay. I have to say that the PvP arena right now is pretty much in its infancy. It is live PvP, so you are fighting someone who's inputting their skills in real time, but because it's either aggregating your ping for both you and your opponent, or it's got some kind of centralized server, the lag is pretty bad. I have to say, I'm in Canada at least, and I've experienced lag in almost all of my matches. Sometimes it makes it pretty much unplayable. You're frozen, the enemy's frozen, and then a few seconds later, everything starts moving again. I'm not sure if that's just stability issues because the game just launched and there's like thousands of players on it, or if there's just something else that I'm missing. But if you have more information on that, or if the devs or anyone else can offer us an explanation of that, or how we can improve our ping, because a lot of times when I queue into ranked, it will tell me my ping is really high after checking my network status. I don't actually want to fight someone right now. That's fine. I didn't want to fight someone. But it'll tell me that my ping is really high, and then it won't actually let me, or it'll tell me I can fight someone, and I kind of risk losing the match if I have to disconnect due to a poor network connection. But it's nice to see live PvP. It's nice to get a fresh, I think the game just crashed, a fresh take on the ARPG genre, especially for mobiles, and to see a game that doesn't seem to be completely, pay to get ahead, at least for the majority of things that you can do in the game. It seems to benefit or prioritize grinding straight out more often than not. So I'm gonna have to reset this client, but that's okay. Let me know what you guys think of this new game and the kind of first look at it. If you've already started playing it, let me know as well. Thank you to Ontologist for showing me this game in the first place. Subscribe if you enjoyed the content and you want to support me, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.